What's up, guys? It's Tony Tequila with Tony Tequila talking with Dro from Dro TV. We're gonna do what we always do. Be there.
Welcome back to My First Time, the show where our guests get to tell the story of the first time they got high from marijuana. Today, I'd like to welcome our guest, Tony from Tony Tequila Talks. What's happening, my friend?
Hey, how's it going there, Dro?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on Dro TV today and giving us some of your time. You can find more of Tony on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and wherever you get your podcasts. So, Tony, please tell our audience a little bit about where you're located and what you provide to the cannabis world.
What's up, everybody? I'm Tony Tequila. I am based in the Central Valley of California, so I'm right in the middle. I'm in the city of Fresno, and just this year they've opened two dispensaries so far with about five delivery options. They actually have two brick and mortar stores going and the third one to be opening. Basically, um, go out and to the dispensaries and check out their products, review the not only the dispensary but the products and gear and stuff. So I kind of just do a variety of things, but it's all uh, associated with marijuana. And sometimes I'm just out and about and you need to smoke every now and then. So I bust open the camera and shoot.
Well, I definitely want to get more into the podcast. You got a background, a retired wrestling referee, so I'm sure there's some interesting stories there as well. But the show is my first time, Tony. So we want to hear the story of the first time you got high.
Okay. Well, there's two first times. The
Okay.
first time will be when I was about 14, and we were at a friend's house, and we were outside. We are drinking, and yeah, I know we're outside drinking and stuff, and somebody busts out this. It was weed. I know it was weed. Yeah, I knew it was weed back then, but it was like uh, it didn't smell very good. It smelled very what I know now as super weak.
Yeah.
Like like it had been like have you ever seen somebody vape and then they vape flower and then they have the leftover and you can kind of see the color difference.
Yeah.
Now that I know that's what it kind of looked like. So, of course, then everybody's like, oh, let's roll a fatty, go get a backwards, and let's go get a blunt pepper. Back then, it was the Swisher Sweets. They would get the Swisher and roll it, and pack it back up. And I was like, ugh. Yeah, I smoked cigarettes a lot. And I started when I was 13. And so I was like, they were like, well, just smoke it like a cigarette. Oh, okay, well, yeah, take a cigarette, I take a big hit and I hold it and I let it go. A bad idea. Even with this what I found out was dirt weed, took this big hit. All of a sudden, all I wanted to do is sit. And I sat there and everybody started to smoke, everybody's getting high, everybody's sitting there. And then we're like, uh, and this was my first time. So I'm like, am I supposed to feel like I want to go to sleep? My, you know what? I'm hungry now. And so we head over there was a taco truck down the street. Head over to the taco truck and hit them up. Yeah, they made some good money that day. But uh, that was the first time, and I kind of experimented with it a little bit off and on between high school, but because of sports and stuff like that, I was having a job all during high school. I was always afraid to get popped uh, for a test. So I really kind of left it alone. But back right before, I think it was Prop 420 that got passed here in this California to make it legal. Um, I started to my uh, I had people around me that were always smoking, and I was in really bad pain because I have arthritis in both my knees. I have probably some soft tissue damage in my knee, and it makes it hard for me to get around. I'm always in a lot of pain. Uh, and so somebody said, "Hey, why don't you try this? Uh, try a vape here, like kind of like this." And I'm like, "Well, what is that gonna do?" They're like, "Well, it'll help. It'll help you with your pain." Uh, and so I'm thinking, "Oh, okay, well, I don't know what it is. I'll try it." Um, and then I find out, it was that was CBD, and
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, okay, I like this," but it kind of wore off pretty quick. Um, so the next week is my neighbor. So the next week, he's out there partying, and I go out there, and we're talking, and he gives me another pen. And he's like, "Here, you can have this one." Uh, I go, "What is this?" And he's like, "What did he say? Oh, it's green crack." Green crack, bro. I don't do none of that kind of stuff. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, "No, it's weed. This kind will really help. You just smoke a little bit during the day, and when you're feeling pain, take a little bit." Okay, I've been told, doctors are telling me all this, that. Uh, and I go and I hit the pin. Oh, yeah. Oh, I like this feeling. Like it wasn't, I wasn't super down. I wasn't super up. I was just kind of level. It didn't take the pain 100%, but it took it to where it was tolerable. And so that time when I smoked that, oh yeah, that one I now know was what, like probably a hybrid. And so yeah, I had it, I was kind of riding it and getting those effects. And but yeah, with that green crack, that was a pretty good name for it because yeah, I was like, okay, I need more of that. And then
Yeah.
it, as a first time smoker, you think, oh, maybe only that strain will give you that effect. So I was like really hard trying to find that strain. And he's like, "No, dummy, there's all kinds of stuff. Like, here, try this, try that." So it was my next door neighbor that actually really got me with different strains, and it kind of schooled me on all the effects, um, the differences between the indica and sativa. Uh, but then after that, I just rabbited it. I started a deep dive, and that's kind of where the idea of the show got started. Was
Okay.
like, I know I'm new to marijuana, and I was 42, so it was 8 years ago. So 42 years, and I'm still learning, and I wanted to, I know there's people that are always coming on new um, into the marijuana experience, the marijuana field. So I wanted to find out as much as I could so that I could relay it to the other people, and that's kind of basically where Honey Tequila Talks get started because uh, if I'm not um, have a really bad anxiety sometimes, and if I'm not medicating, I'm kind of a normally shy person, which is weird because I was a theater person
Okay.
through school and in athletic. So for me to become the shy person was weird. And then, but with the help from our little friend here, it just makes me be able to do things like this and not be afraid to talk to people. Uh, so yeah, but the second first time was way better than the first time.
Right.
Much better. I felt safer. I felt, what's the word? I felt more comfortable.
Okay.
We were still outside, but we were more comfortable. I guess being an adult, I wasn't worried about somebody rolling up on us or, you know, And plus, it was legal at the time, so if the cops would have come out and been like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, what are you gonna do? So, but now I have a my medicinal card. So if I'm ever in the car or wherever out and about, I always have it with me just in case, because I still have that uh, paranoia. Sometimes some of this doesn't help with that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. So, Tony, you mentioned sports when you were in high school. You're a retired wrestling referee. Did you wrestle yourself? Is that how you got into becoming a referee?
Well, I actually got started in pro wrestling as a fan, like most other people.
Okay.
I met a trainer probably in my junior year of high school. I was about 17. His name is Jesse Hernandez. He runs a school down in San Bernardino, California. And I kind of just had a chance to talk with him for a bit as I'm guarding the ring and he's kind of setting up and they're all getting ready. And I'm talking to him and I'm like, dude, I've always wanted to be a pro wrestler, you know. Uh, I'm small at this point. I'm only 5'5", right? I grow like 2 inches more than in high school. So I ended up hitting 5'7". I knew I wasn't going to be a 6 footer. I knew that, you know, and I told him, you know, I'm just so short that I can almost be in the mini league. And he's like, no, you're way too tall for that. Like, yeah, if you were 5'4" or 5'2", yeah, you could totally do it, but you're way too big. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm glad to hear I'm too big for something, and not fat, you know, I mean, like too tall. And so he tells me, you know, he breaks it down and just tells me, hey, it can be done, you know, if nothing else, you could be a voice. Uh, you can be somebody's manager. You can, you know, there's all these different things you can do in the business. Uh, but he said, have you ever thought about reffing? No, not really. Like, what do you just do? You just stand there. Big mistake. So then he goes, okay, watch my match. Tell me if I just stand there. So after everybody gets in the building and he gets through and he goes through and I watch him and he is not just standing there. He's all over the place. He's very involved. Uh, Essentially he's the third man in the ring, you know, which
Sure.
is they call it that for a reason. Um, so after the match and after all the matches are done, you know, I'm there waiting for them to take it apart. He tells me about his school and kind of like breaks it down. Um, and I'm like, man, that's what I want to do. That's it. Now I know what I want to do. I had always wanted to wrestle, but now that I had somebody in the business telling me you can do it, that was all I needed to hear. And it was full, it was just that was it. It kicked into the mentality. So I started to look for local schools because San Bernardino and Fresno are quite a bit of ways. Uh, Even if I were to go down for the weekend or whatever. Um, so I find a couple of schools. Some of them are less than reputable. The trainers, you know, were basically untrained themselves. Trying to find a school with a trainer who is trained by the Hart family. Anybody that knows wrestling knows the Hart family is like if you
Bret
get trained,
Hart, Owen Hart.
Brett, Owen, and all the guys. Yeah, this my instructor was one of the last students before the last student. So he actually trained, was in the same class as Chris Jericho and um, Lance Storm. So the three of them were in the class together. So um, we trained very hard dungeons, not style, but with that mentality because we weren't the guys that were trained. We learned how to stretch, but we didn't. That wasn't like our focus, like it would have been at the Hart Dungeon. You know, be able to protect yourself in the ring, basically, is what Stu taught. In case somebody ever jumps in or somebody gets out of control, uh, goes off script in the ring, you know, you're able to handle yourself. Um, and so basically it just gets started there. I get we get some training in, and uh, I'm basically just kind of hanging around. I haven't been officially signed up or anything, but I'm just kind of hanging around because I know a few of the guys. They're like, hey, we know, you know what? Let's run a match. We need a ref. Tony, you want a ref? Like, I guess. I get in there and I'm kind of, half-assing it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm pretending. I'm thinking of all the old WWE matches,
Sure.
all this stuff, like how they get in there. Like, uh, yeah, I looked horrible. I watched that first thing a few times, and yeah. So I mean, but it was my first time, so I get in there and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this. I like this. I get to be around wrestling, and I don't have to get beat up like every day. Um,
Yeah.
and so that was like, yeah, okay. So I'll take during class I would take bumps and stuff with everybody else. Not as many, but enough where I could say, hey, I can take a bump, uh, which is basically our way of falling without hurting ourselves, um, or the way we're supposed to fall without hurting ourselves. And it happened. So yeah, that actually uh, leads to a bunch of so the training and meeting all these people. I was able to, like I said, I've met some wrestlers on the way up, and so like get these contacts. Chris Jericho. I wish we would have been able to keep more in contact with him. But there's guys like that are on the big scene now. John Cena, I seen when he was nobody. I seen um, John Morrison came through our camp. Some people know him from like lucha, from the lucha scene as well. So I've seen a lot of guys coming through the independent scene in California that are pretty big, and I've been impressed with. And I've always said, I always wanted to talk to these guys, and uh, that's where the idea of the show came. It's like, hey, I've got all these contacts and friends in the industry. Let's try to do something about it.
Now, there's a movie called The Wrestler. I'm not sure how accurate that is. It seems pretty accurate. I mean, listened to Jake the Snake interviews, and he was kind of the guy as far as when it came to certain type of drug or pain relief. He was the man. And then now we have Ric Flair's got his own strain and marijuana. So when you were watching some of these guys come up, did you see any of them? You don't have to name names, but were they consuming cannabis? And was it something that was like major for pain relief?
Matter of fact, there is one person that I won't name, but that when I was a fan, uh, I guess because of where we were, they asked, "Hey, do you know anybody that can get me some green?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, of course, this I'm in high school still, so I kind of know most terms for weed, but there was like a couple that I hadn't heard, and green was one of them. I just was like, "Well, what?" And he's like, and then I was with a photographer buddy of mine. He goes, "Oh, I do." Like, what he's talking about? He's like, oh, he wants weed. Oh yeah, I know a guy. And so like, we call this guy, and he gets it, and they're outside. And this is the coolest part of it. And like back in the day, WWF at the time was really strict about kayfabe, which was characters remain in character at all times.
Mhm.
Bad guys are with bad guys, good guys are with good guys. Well, the heels, bad guys were at poolside, and there was a face at poolside with them, and I was like, oh, cool. So these guys are all sparking up, passing it, and then they're like, we need this because it's for the pain. Like we at that time they were on the road like 345 days, 350 days a
Wow.
year, So, he's telling me it's really for the pain. It's not at all for, getting high. Now I see, like you said, Ric Flair, The Godfather has one. Uh, well, someone else is working on one right now as well. But uh, yeah, no. Val Venus. Val Venus is another guy. Rob Van Dam is another guy that has a strain.
Hey everybody, I want to quickly mention food forest abundance. Food forest abundance is a great way to create your own self sustaining food forest and naturally occurring ecosystem that's commonly found in nature but designed specifically for you. Through multiple layers of trees, shrubs, herbs, vines, rhizomes, mushrooms, and perennial vegetables, you can become your own supply chain without the typical maintenance required of a garden. From small spaces to large areas, both urban and suburban, Food Forest Abundance wants us to get back to our roots in nature by engaging with our food production in a meaningful way. For more information, click on the link in the description below and start your journey today. Okay, let's get back to today's episode.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's like one more, and I can't really. Oh, Kevin Nash.
Okay.
Kevin Nash launched a strain that's exclusive to the Detroit area or to Michigan, I guess. So it's big. It's out there. And as someone who used to not do, but have to take uh, opioids and stuff, I much rather do this,
Sure. Yeah.
than to take 2 or 3 pills. And I know guys that were taking 4 or 5 right before max. So, I'd much rather smoke a joint with them than to get in there and they're kind of something happens. You know, I'm responsible. I'm not responsible, but I've got to make sure that they're okay at all times as well. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a immensely physically demanding sport. And you have baseball and football and the other sports, they test for these things. So they never tested for that because who cared, right?
yeah, they started to get uh, real big on testing after the steroids trial.
Okay.
But yeah, they kind of there was always guys that get scared it. I mean, there's always a way.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah, there was ways that the guys would cheat the test. I mean, like in the independents, we don't test. Uh, but I when I listen to the stories backstage, that's one thing I remember. Uh, Jesse Hernandez saying, "When you're backstage, you have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. Shut
Right.
the hell up and listen, because you'll learn way more by listening than you will by talking." And that has always stuck. So whenever I interview somebody, I kind of just let them go and just sometimes you get a different story than what you're looking for. So
That's great. Yeah. We always try to let our guests talk as much as possible. That's like you said, that's we learn the most stuff. Um, your show, Tony Tequila Talks. Um, have you had famous wrestlers on there? Is it mostly a show with all different types of guests, or let's talk a little bit about the show, Tony?
yeah, the show is started out basically was going to be me talking with a bunch of wrestlers, but that started in 2020. So guess what happened in 2020?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we had COVID. So I had to kind of change, and the show's always over. I mean, you're always adapting and changing to fit what you can do and uh, your guests and stuff. You always have to try to accommodate. So I started to look for celebrities, people in my around my city and stuff. People that I kind of people that I find interesting. Maybe they're donating their time to children's hospital, but yet they have no kids, or maybe they grew up with an illness, and that's why they decided to help out. I kind of just like, I'm always on social media, so I'm kind of scrolling and looking, and if I find somebody interesting, I'll reach out and say, "Hey, do you think maybe we could talk?" I have I did that with the my first real guest was the actor Stephen Anthony Lawrence, who some people may know from even Stevens. He was the neighbor kid. He was on Cat in the Hat and Kicking and Screaming. He was in quite a bit of movies, but he had a Fresno connection, and we actually had someone in common. So by being able to drop, that name on that name drop, but kind of say, hey, I know this person. Do you know them? Allowed me to go ahead and talk to him, and we had a good hour. We had about an hour, and it still wasn't enough.
Mm.
I also had the longest flying Tinkerbell at Disneyland. If you're old enough to remember that at Disneyland, they used to send a Tinkerbell girl like across the park, like in a zip line, something. And yeah, she was one of the longest lines. She did that. And so, yeah, my show is pretty open, and it's just kind of no longer dedicated to wrestling. It's dedicated to who I find interesting. And a lot of it is becoming geared towards marijuana.
Okay. How often does the show come out?
It is done every other week right now.
Okay.
We will be going back to weekly, but it's done every other week.
Okay. Awesome. Now, Tony, when you consume, what's your preferred method? You got the oil pen? Do you like flour? You do edibles?
I prefer the carts, and I'm big on Papa's Herbs right now. Like, not only my brand ambassador for them, but I am like, their price is so good and their quality is so good that, like, it's hard to pass up. I smoke a lot of other stuff. I do smoke flower. I do it all. I have done it all. I have dab rigs and I have edibles around. I do whatever I can to alleviate the pain, and that's the main thing. It's a lot of the pain stuff that I have stuff around, and of course, every now and then I can have fun. So,
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, Tony, tell everybody where they can follow you and find more of the podcast.
all right. So you guys can follow me on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. You can find me under Tony Tequila, or under Tony Tequila Tokes, or under Tony Tequila Talks. And Tokes is Tokes, like Tokes. So all that stuff's being rebranded. So I will be, like I said, the talk show will be its own entity, and then the Tokes will be like a sub. Because here on YouTube, it's so hard to get our 420 friendly content on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Tony, thanks for being an awesome guest. It was great chatting with you, learning a little bit more about yourself and some of your wrestling background in the podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you go down there and smash the like button for Tony. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave a comment, share with a friend, and also subscribe to Dro TV here on YouTube, because you don't want to miss great guests like Tony. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you again for you guys' time. I appreciate this. Not a lot of people would give a chance to somebody just getting started. Most people want, somebody established, and you, like myself, will reach out, say, hey, I can give you a shot. I don't know how many people will listen or how many people will watch, but hey, I can help as much as I can, and I appreciate that.
We appreciate you coming on. We like to talk to all different kinds of people, and you're a different kind of person. So that's why we got you on the show. You definitely bring some personality here. So we appreciate that. And that's it for today. I hope everyone enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you go down there and follow Tony. All the links will be down below. And that's it for today's episode. Smoke them if you got them. What's up, Dro TV family? You can now stream the audio version of all these episodes on your favorite podcast player. And if you like more episodes like this, check out this playlist we put together over here for you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't want to miss more great content from Dro TV. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, smoke them if you got them.